Thank you and for looking, watching, and welcome to my American History Notes. Today we're going to begin our discussion on the Great Awakening, an important event leading up to the religious liberty that we have today, and which is probably the most important positive thing that America has given the world or shown the world, something that was unusual in history, where no established state church that would dictate, dominate the people, or a state church that would demand tax money for the payment of pastor salaries, things like that. We're going to get to that. But first, we're going to talk about the Great Awakening. You might not agree with my conclusions, but the evidence that I present, you should know about the events. Okay, so please look them up. We'll start today. The next event in American history that had a profound effect on the future of religious liberty was called the Great Awakening. An important figure in this movement was Jonathan Edwards, the son of preacher Timothy Edwards and Esther Pierpont. He pastored Stoddard's Church in Northampton, we talked about him before, and began the task of correcting the wrongs of his grandfather and the Saybrook platform. He was not a dissenter, a separatist, or a Baptist. He was ordained in the Standing Order Church and is one of the four key people of the Great Awakening. His influence on other Protestant denominations in America is immense, spreading the desire for revival all through the American population. Since 1704, at least, in America, the sacrament of baptism, the sacrament, quote unquote, of baptism, was viewed as the means by which one was converted to Christianity. Although this concept goes back over 1,000 years before that in the state church that the Roman Emperor Constantine created, and even before in the writings of some of the early church leaders called, quote, fathers by the Catholic Church. The dulling effect of this idea on churches in America was phenomenal, and churches began to die. Between 1718 and 1727, the churches of New England, of the established Standing Order, were degenerating into formality and lacking completely in spiritual commitment. Preachers commented on how depraved people, nominal Christians by baptism, were becoming. Darkness was descending on the spiritual consciousness of colonial America that was unimaginable. Immorality, drunkenness, and a disregard for God's book and his standards were taking over the common man. Preaching in the early 1700s was dry and dull and often preached by men who were unsaved themselves and had no personal knowledge or a commitment to Christ. There was no emphasis on a personal experience with a risen Savior, and such a view was held in disdain by those preachers of the halfway covenant who viewed salvation as a communal experience based on the individual submitting to the church's sacramental rituals, regardless of his inner state of faith or the lack thereof. Something was about to change that, and we'll discuss that something and continue the next time. Thank you.